Hello, welcome everybody to Legacy Living TV. I'm super excited for tonight's show. We have a very exciting, strapping young man as our guest. This is Mr. Omar. Say your last name again.
Last name Camacho.
Camacho. It's like macho man. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. Have you heard that a lot?
Yes, that's how I actually remember it. There's actually a boxer that went by Macho Camacho, which I didn't know about, but it seems like everybody else knew who he was, and they'd be like, "That's how I remember your last name." So that's an easy way, Macho
I
Camacho.
love it. Macho man. And he's here. Awesome. So dig into tonight's show. We're just going to have Omar introduce himself briefly, maybe tell you a little bit about his story that led him to the current businesses that he is running as a powerhouse young millennial entrepreneur. So why don't you just go for it, Omar? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, awesome. So ever since growing up, right, a little kid, I felt like I always had a little bit of a entrepreneur mindset. Because I always liked buying stuff as a little kid, but my parents would always tell me, if you want that toy, I'll give you so much money, but you got to make the rest of the money yourself. And so I'd always have to come up with silly little ways to try and make money. I remember when I was, I think it was about 10 years old, and I wanted to save up money to go get this toy that I wanted. It's a really cool action figure, and I was like, okay, so I got a bunch of my friends together, and we used to live in this townhouse complex, and what we did was I set up a garage cleaning service, and basically I had like 4 of my friends who I employed, and we would charge people $5 to clean their garages, and we would go out and I would knock on people's doors, tell them what we did, and just basically had 5 friends with buckets, and we would all go clean garages, and that way. So since I was
Genius.
yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And so, it was that, mowing lawns, doing things like that. So ever since I was young, I always felt like I had an entrepreneur mindset. But as I got older, I kind of fell into kind of the little safe zone where, you get a good paying job, nothing wrong with the 9 to 5, but I just didn't feel like it was right for me. Right. And going very well. I actually was with my wife. We were actually doing very, very well. She was a district manager. I was working in the mining industry. We had that safe 6-figure salary. And it wasn't then until, that feeling that you get in your gut where there's something more, like you're missing out on something, or there's just that little bit. I had that feeling. And I remember to my first, it was like a awakening seminar, because it woke me. Right, the guy instructing, teaching, he just opened my mind to something so different that I was like, what? Wait, I do have like powers, like with my mind, it actually does things, not just for like school stuff. And I was like, wow. And so it was so funny because after that seminar, my wife and I went to it, and we had one of our friends come with. And after that seminar, it was a 3-day seminar. And literally when we went in, I didn't know what to expect. By the time I left, I was like, we're starting a business. It's going to be, we're going to teach people how to make more money, and we're going to do things, and we're going to start it. And she was like, okay, let's do it, And at this point, we had that comfortable, 6-figure salary. We had just bought in our very first home. I just bought in my very first truck. We had just had our first baby, right? And we said, you know what? Let's just dive in. Let's go all in, because I don't want this to take me 10 years, 20 years. I want to figure this out as fast as possible. And so I said, I'm quitting my job. And my wife said, you know what? All right, let's both quit our jobs and cut the income to 0, and let's sink or swim. And I was like, all right, well, we don't sink, we swim. And so let's fast forward a little bit. 3 months later, I think we didn't really know what we jumped into. Things got tough. I mean, there was a point where our water got shut off. We couldn't pay the house payment. My truck was going to get repoed. And at that point, it was easy for me to say, I'm just going to go back to the job, because I can go back there and they'll take me back. But we said, I feel like we're on the verge of something. Let's keep going. So we literally cut back every single expense we had. And safe to say, it started off slowly moving. We had 1 month where we made $500, and we were like, oh my gosh, $500 from our business that we started finally. And then the next month, it doubled, $1,000. And then we had our very best month the next month, five, and so on and so forth until we hit 18,000. And then we're like, wait, did we seriously just do that? I think we figured something out. And so that's a little story about kind of how we got started and really jumped into what we're doing. Now, we own a successful consulting firm called Embrace Your Life. And I'm also a partner with with a financial services firm called Elite Hathaway. It's awesome for us. So it's good to say that entrepreneur spirit went strong, and we kind of learned to swim. It was a little rough, a little patchy, but we got to swim. So
I love it. I love your story. This is amazing. So what I love so much about it is that there is this point where there's this jumping off and this like taking the leap of faith. And some people think it's when you quit your job, but it actually wasn't. Your real leap of faith is when you had the water turned off and you saw that you could turn around and run back into the comfort zone, what was familiar, what was a guaranteed paycheck, or you could put your nose to the pavement and figure it out and make shit happen, right?
Yeah.
I love that because a lot of people think, oh, I invested in a coach. Oh, I put the money up. Oh, I took the risk. Now, it didn't pan out, so now I'm going to run back home. Well, that's the shortcut. The real leap of faith, the real transformation, the real becoming really doesn't happen until we hit that wall. It's just like going to the gym. So, Omar, I do some mind-body transformation coaching with people, right? In addition to all my life coaching and business consulting, that when we're lifting weights, we don't actually really get gains until we hit our threshold, right? It's not those first 3 reps that are making the difference. It's all the ones that come after that. After we've hit that zone of like, I can't do any more, that's where champions are made.
That's right. I love that. I actually have a saying that really helped me get past those hard points, even at the gym. And I always say, it's not over yet. Once I feel like I've hit that limit, it's not over, I have more. So it's one of those things I repeat to myself over and over. It's not over yet, which really helps me kind of break through the pressure we were talking about. So that's awesome. I love it.
Not over yet, baby. Well, great. So right now in your business, you are in growth, right? And you're seeing some success and you're having a lot of fun. Do you ever feel like there's this, like, when do you think you'll arrive? Do you have like this arrival zone that you have in mind?
That's so funny that you asked that because my wife and I were just talking today and we're like, oh my gosh, remember when we first jumped into this and we're like, if we could just make the first $5,000 a month, it'll feel like we arrived. And then you make it and then you go, wait, if once I hit this next level and once we have this many clients and once we have this many employees and once we do this, then I'll feel like I've hit it. So, I mean, there's always still this next level for us saying when I make it, but I can honestly say it's once we hit it, we're already looking to that next point. So it just drives us to continue growing. So no, I don't think we were even close yet.
I love it. Thank you. I love that. Well, and this is something that I've been really wanting to drive home and that I speak about a lot is this idea that in our mind we think, oh, once I've lost the weight, then I'll be happy. Oh, once I'm a millionaire, I'll be happy. Oh, once I have, I'm completely financially free living off investment income, I'll be happy. Oh, once the kids are in school, I'll be happy, right? And it's like we always are putting our happiness on hold, like on layaway. We're like trying to earn it. And when you begin to realize that you never really arrive, that the minute that you're there, you're already setting another goal, you begin to understand that the joy and the fulfillment really is part of the process, right? The journey. So with that in mind, what do you do on a daily basis? What actions are you committed to that assist you and your family in having joy in the journey? And especially in the beginning when parts of the journey weren't so joyous.
Yes. So really, it's so funny that you say that. because it's really, I love how you said it's all about the journey, and it's learning to find the love in the process, right? And most of us, it's so funny because we're conditioned to like just want the destination and not the process, right? So we're like, oh, like you said, once I get here, once I make so much money, once I lose the weight, then I'll be happy. It's always about the destination. But more often than not, you'll find that you're on the journey, because once you hit the destination, you're on the next place. You're already moving on. And so it really comes down to teaching yourself to love the process. And sometimes the process can be painful, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it comes with struggles and questioning and things like that. But it's so funny because I've really been trying to train myself that every time something comes up, I celebrate it and I associate it with something that I really love. So, for example, I don't know if this is too much to share, but I love my back scratched or rubbed. It gives me this amazing sense, like satisfaction feeling. And so when like a problem arises, when I need to go after something and I get it done, tackling it, I ask my wife to rub my back. And so I start associating pleasure with the process. So next time it comes up, instead of being all down and being like, oh, I'm really like, oh, my back's going to get scratched. This is awesome. I'm going to move forward. And so I really associate pleasure with the process. That's just a learned kind of a self-trained taught behavior where you just
Omar, you're like a little puppy dog. Like, come here, let me scratch you. Oh, good boy, good boy. That's so funny. And I love it because that's that neural programming that people sometimes can underestimate the power of this. And I did a video about this earlier today, that we have the body, we have the mind, we have the spirit, and we get to really learn how to integrate all of them and work with them all as a working and functioning system. And what's so funny, and I've heard this on a few tapes with Tony Robbins. He talks about, he had this program that he had to finish everything on his plate. And it was rooted from when he was a little kid. You know, he was told that you finished everything that's on your plate. But this began to damage him as he grew into adulthood, and he'd fill a plate full, or someone else would serve him a full plate, or he'd go to a restaurant and he would feel like he had to eat every bite, and he'd make himself sick, and he'd eat too much and he wasn't feeling good. So what he began to do was he began to reprogram himself. What he would do is, before he'd finish, have you heard this story, Omar?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he would like leave stuff on the plate, and he would slap his hand like, we're done. He'd push the plate away, and then he'd celebrate like crazy to create these new neural programmings that I get rewarded when I do this behavior. And what people don't understand is that we can actually make sadness, sorrow, and depression actually a reward for ourselves. When we talk about the 6 needs that Tony teaches, right? Some people actually associate a lot of love and connection when they're depressed, as crazy as it sounds, and they find it rewarding to go into that dark place, because now it's, first of all, it's familiar, and then now they're feeling connected to themselves, they're feeling significant, all of that stuff. So in any of the behaviors we have, I love it, the back scratching thing. What else do you have? Do you have one more I want to hear? Do you have any other more back scratchy things?
Yeah, so okay, so the back scratching, that one's just been the highlight. What did I used to do before? Let's see. Okay, so sushi, right? I absolutely love sushi, and there's a Vegas roll that I absolutely love, and so I would always, like, after every, like, maybe I had like a really tough day, or and I wasn't making my goal or whatever it was, and if I would just kept going, even if I didn't hit it, I would go out and celebrate, and I would always go out at night, have dinner and have that Vegas sushi roll, because to me that was it was so funny, because the first time I had it was on my birthday, right? My wife took me out, and so I associated that roll with celebration, my birthday. It's all about me. I did awesome. All attention's on me, and everybody's celebrating me. So when I attached that roll to that, I was like, I'm gonna go celebrate like it's my birthday. And so it felt like all attention was on me, and I was just like being cheered on because I accomplished something. And so, not saying go out and go crazy with food, but I am saying that me personally, that's one thing I had associated with celebration, and so that's what I used to do. It was that sushi roll. That was my absolute favorite. So yeah.
That is pretty cool. I really like it. So now I want to move into a bit of a space of vulnerability, of really talking about a lot of the times when people see someone who's pursuing their dream and who's going for it and who's really out there, they begin to separate themselves from them and they think they're superhuman or they're different or they just have more willpower or they just, there's something special about them and they're just different and I can't do it. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that and then the advice you'd have to somebody who, has a dream or a passion, whether it's to start a business or to become a coach or to, sell things online, but they're either waiting or they're fearful or they're, oh, I'll do it when the kids are in school. They're delaying. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, that's awesome. So it's so funny because I always like to say people have a why, right? A reason why they do things, why they get up, why they want to move. And I like to say people are kind of like, they have Ferraris in them, right? A Ferrari, fast, beautiful, luxurious car that goes and gets things done. It's a fast car and it can move. And I like to say everybody has a Ferrari. Within them, the thing that most people are missing is the fuel. And so when you find a go-getter, it's not because they have something else that you don't have. It's because they found out how to leverage things in their life that created fuel to move. And so one of the things I like to tell people is if you're not moving, it's not because your why's not good, right? Because a lot of people say, my family's my why. And I'm not moving. Does that mean I don't love my family? Does that mean I'm not fired up about it? And it's like, no, it's not. Not at all. You absolutely love your family. What's happening is you don't understand. You're not leveraging it and creating it into fuel. And it's as simple as just turning it into fuel. And how I tell people is, if you're not moving, so there's pain and pleasure, right? People normally say, I'm going to move forward with pleasure, but then they leave pain off to the side. And I personally believe that there's a reason why we feel pain and pleasure. And I think pain has a specific purpose, right? There's everybody, for example, take into example, all of the successful people that you look into, Tony Robbins, Bill Gates, every successful person out there, normally you hear a tipping point in their life where something bad happened and then all of a sudden they changed and made a new choice, right? And then their life changed, they did things differently and they start to improve. What that's really telling me is that they learn how to leverage pain, right? We've all had experiences as a child, as an adult, either being made fun of, teased, lost a family member, certain things like that. And for most people, they weigh them down. And what I like to really help people with in my consulting firm is how to use that and transform it into fuel to fuel you and keep you forward. And so that's really what I do. I say nobody has something you don't have. You're not missing anything. You just got to learn how to leverage the things in your life as fuel, and you'll be moving.
I love it. I love it. And this is a phrase I use a lot is I say, your reason why you can't is someone else's reason why they can. And really the only difference between successful and unsuccessful is that they take those experiences or those blocks or the horror stories from their childhood. Did you know 85% of families are considered dysfunctional? So a lot of people go, oh, I had a horrible childhood. I was beat. I was all these things. And I don't want to minimize that. And I don't want to say, well, boo-hoo, because certainly there are traumas and there are emotional scars and there are these things that are very real that do get to have some love and attention poured all over them. But when I mock it in that tone, what I'm basically saying is, it doesn't get to be your reason why not to. It doesn't get to be your excuse for why you're insecure because you could utilize that same thing. You could turn it on its head and use it as your reason to be confident, as your reason to get out of bed in the morning, as your reason to serve at a greater level, right? And it's all about taking everything in our environment and in our world and use it to empower us, right? Rather than using it as evidence, more evidence why I can't, right?
Yep, no, that's exactly true. I actually like to tell people, and it's so funny because I'll ask them, what do you think would motivate you to move more? So I ask them, picture that the goal that you've always wanted, whether it be money, car, whatever it is, the body is standing right in front, like 10 feet in front of you. Is that going to motivate you to move? They're like, yeah. I was like, are you going to move fast? They're like, yeah. And I say, okay, now I want you to imagine that the worst experience in your life is 10 feet behind you and it's coming after you. Which one is going to motivate you to move faster? And they're like, oh, that bad experience behind me, because I never want to relive that. And that's actually how I get people to really see that pleasure motivates you, but also those painful moments, when they're used right, they can get you to move even faster. So.
Agreed. 100%. I love it. So, what is right now your, okay, so I actually have two questions. I'm getting ahead of myself. My first question would be, if someone's on their journey and they are really wanting to get ignited in their passion and their why and their vision, everything that you kind of teach foundationally in your consulting company, what is like the number one book you recommend for people to go and consider?
Ooh, the number one book for this. That's a good question. I don't think I've ever, let's see, definitely the book that did it for me, the book that really kind of was, see, the way I work is I love information, but I love story, right? And there's a story that kind of drives me, takes me down this path that really inspires me. And if honestly, the book that one of the very first books I read that made the biggest impact on me, funny to say, was The Jackrabbit Factory.
I love that book.
And so that book did so much to me. I just remember sitting at the end of that book and I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember tears on my face. I was like, I have the power. I can make things happen. And to me, it was just a really eye-opening first experience book that just totally sparked things in me. So for somebody who's just getting started, just getting moving, or wanting to find that extra umph to get them to move, that would be a book I would really recommend, The Jackrabbit Factory.
Jackrabbit Factor. That's a good one. And what's that gal's name? Lisa. What was it?
Leslie Householder.
That's it. Leslie Householder. There it is. Good. Awesome. Okay. This is our final question. And I really like this because it's just all about vulnerability and maybe just kind of being real about what your number one maybe obstacle or struggle was moving forward. So I would love to share mine really fast, and then you can be thinking about yours. So in the beginning, when I first launched my business, my number one struggle or opportunity for growth, right, if we're using conscious language, was this idea of really holding the value. I had such a big heart. I still do. It hasn't changed, but I had such a big heart and I wanted to serve everybody. And I would just get so excited. And the minute that anyone would come to me and want help or coaching, it was like word vomit. It just kept coming out of me. Like I just wanted to help everybody. And what ended up happening was I was spending a lot of my time with pro bono clients or trades or things like that because I loved and adored these people, and my business really struggled. Like it really, really started struggling, and I put my business in a beautiful amount of debt that I got to shift and move through. And it was just this opportunity to really dig in and take a look. And as I did that, and as I began shifting those things, I realized part of it was around, belief systems around value and money and worth. Like if you ask for money in return, that means you don't really care about people. And I began to shift those beliefs with things like no one goes to a doctor and expects to get service for free, right? They wouldn't. I'm a mind doctor, like it's what I do. And I've invested hours and hours and hours and years into my education. And, I made the investment. And when I began to shift my mindset and see it from that perspective, little doors started opening up, and I began to also get to work on, past programming around worth and value and rejection too, because there is that as well. When you declare your rate to a client or to someone onboarding, there is that opportunity for, rejection. Either no, you're not worth that fee, right? Or, who do you think you are to be charging that rate? Or no, you're not worth, you know what I'm saying? And having the opportunity to really move through that in a whole new way totally transformed my business. And so there's a vulnerable share for you guys of something that was like this little not little, it was a big anchor for quite some time that I dragged behind me, trying to move forward in my business and, having these big goals and these big visions, but yet this massive anchor was behind me. And how did I get rid of it? Well, it's the mind game, and shifting that programming, and having coaches and self-coaching, and always working through those things and reaching for that next level, and surrendering to the process of transformation. So there's a little vulnerable share. That's kind of juicy and fun, right, Omar?
I love that. Oh man. Okay. So while you're sitting here, I was thinking, well, what was mine? And then it all of a sudden just snapped and it hit me. And it's a little embarrassing to share. Very vulnerable for me. But I'll share it. So funny when I first, started into this entrepreneurship, started my business, was moving forward. It's so funny because I had so much structure in my life before that when I jumped into entrepreneurship, it was almost like, I was let loose. And I didn't have to do anything, right? There's nobody telling me what to do because I still had that employee mindset where I was told rather than I created for myself. And so the hardest thing for me was accountability and structure. To be real, truthfully honest with you, the first 2 weeks after I left my job, you want to know what I did the very first day? I was like, great, this is great. I'm going to set this up. It's going to be awesome. I worked for about 3 hours on the whole, system, how it can be done. And then for the next 2 weeks, I did absolutely. I would spin, I would, go to bed late. I would watch a lot of TV, and it was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Because after those first 2 weeks, well, guess what? I didn't have a paycheck. And so, wait, there's no money. I have no structure. What's going on here? And it was so funny because I struggled with that. It was a growth opportunity for me. And so what really made a difference for me at that time was finding and hiring mentors that helped me establish things, right? Because they saw a lot of things that I couldn't see in myself because I was in all that gunk, right? When you're in the mess, you can only see so much. But when you have an outside perspective, they can clearly see, oh, this is what's going on. This, and this, and here's how we can fix it. And you're like, great, awesome. And so having a mentor for me was incredible because it gave me insight and structure to what I honestly couldn't see. And honestly, I'd like to think that I would have been out of it and everything, and I'd be exactly where I am today. But to be truly honest, I don't know. And I am forever thankful for all of the mentors and everybody, I had ever hired because it was just the best experience, right? It was an experience that I can say that, honestly, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for their guidance. So, yes, definitely made a huge difference in my life and helped me structure.
I love it. It's the truth. It's the truth. Investing in ourselves is truly the best investment we can make on the planet. And I know for myself that, man, it's like somebody, have you ever seen those videos on Facebook where somebody is colorblind and they get like those color glasses that correct it for the first time?
Yes.
And I get emotional thinking about it, but they start looking around and it's like they're seeing the world for the first time. And when we can begin to shed the bullshit stories and the lack of self-worth and lack of belief in ourselves, and we can really harness our past and use it as like this massive rocket ship to propel us forward, we begin to see our life like we've never seen it before. It's like everything's in color. It's like I can't even describe how, from my first baby to my second baby, how differently I even see my children. Like every freckle, every sticky finger, like really being present in every moment and loving every part of my life. Like that's the only way that I can really explain it, as we begin to transform, level up, and step into a new evolved version of ourselves. So thank you for sharing that, Omar. It's been so fun to have you on here. So for those people who are feeling like they're in love with Omar and they're like, hey, Omar's cool, super cool dude, Camacho macho man. Is that right? Camacho?
Yeah.
Right? They're like, I love Omar. click on his name above, you guys. Go follow him or add him, personal message him, come and learn a little bit about what he does. He has two different companies. He does some financial advising stuff, and he also has his consulting business. Be sure to share the love, check in with him, and also share our interview. Share this out. Let people hear these fun stories, and also, gain some insight and some tools for really creating change and shifting in their mindset. Omar is a powerful, young, dynamic millennial entrepreneur, and if he can do it, you can do it. The only difference between the people succeeding and those not succeeding is right up here. It starts up here in the way that you think about yourself, in the things that you believe about yourself, in the programs that you have in your system. Shed all that stuff, life becomes magical. So thank you for being here on Legacy Living TV. You guys, as always, remember, Rome was not built in a day. Just make your next choice your best choice. And remember, one step at a time, we conquer mountains. I love you guys. Go out there and live your legacy.